Alright guys, so it's Weekly Topics with Ethan. It's Tuesday. I believe it's January 8th. And last week we had the topic of silent etiquette amongst males. Got quite a bit of good responses. It's really neat that some of us trans guys, I shouldn't say us, you trans guys, were taught different things growing up by your father, grandfather, whoever. Myself, my dad taught me a lot of things, but etiquette wasn't taught. I don't think etiquette's really taught. It's something you just know, common sense sometimes. But the reason why I wanted to do it on silent etiquette is just to get your minds going. So Blake brought up a good example. Bathroom etiquette. When you are entering the men's bathroom, men don't talk. Maybe a nod of the head, but they usually don't even look at each other. And one thing about it, if you are using an STP and you use the urinals, you always want to use a urinal away from another guy. If it's not available, then you do what you got to do. If you have gone in there first, and let's say there's 3 urinals, you definitely don't want to use the middle urinal and make a guy stand next to you. You'll use the first one or the last one. Blake said that the sink, they don't like to wash their hands next to each other. I have not experienced that myself. I've only gone into the men's restroom a couple times, and no one was in there when I went in. So that's another thing I haven't experienced that down the road I probably will be talking about. But I like the comments, your guys' experiences. That's what it's about. We'll review each week the topic before, if you guys have any pertinent information to put out there on the tube. So this week I'm going to do relationships. There was a question asked out of me: do relationships last during transition? I thought about that for a while, because I know that relationships, I cannot talk for other people, but I started adding up the guys I know on YouTube, and there's probably about 8 of us that I know that have been in a relationship for a minimum of 5 years, all the way up to 16 years. And that was before transition and during transition. And I think the reason why I know that my relationship will last through my transition is because Tony has told me that she knew this about me without even talking about it. Because she knew who I was. She knew who I was truly, how I responded, how I reacted. It wasn't like a typical female. And she told me that. She says, you never acted like a female. And so when the topic came up, really not the topic, when we watched the Chaz Bono interview on Oprah, for the first time I heard someone else talk the way I would talk, or respond to the questions how I would respond. And she at that time said, hey, why don't you transition? Tony's the one who inspired me, who was my support, and she also was the one who said that she would love me no matter what. And I say, even with the hair, you know, even with the changes? And she said, yeah, because you are you. And that's what I think. Here's the thing. Those of us who have lived a gay life because we've been attracted to females, it was the closest thing to grab onto, to label ourselves. Even though we didn't identify as lesbians. I hated the word lesbian used for me. But we still lived in a female relationship. But if you're like I am, it didn't mean that you acted female, and it didn't mean that you thought female. I mean, there was times when even my sister would say, God, you think just like a guy. And they'd be agitated with me. And I'd say, well, I'm sorry, that's the way I think. So it's, you know, I really feel that if you're in a relationship and you guys really know each other, and you know everything about each other, and it's really meant to be, your partner will endure your whole transition, and your relationship actually will be even better. Tony tells me all the time, you're so much happier. I was a happy person before. I'm sorry I keep looking out, guys, in my front yard. I was a happy person, but I am so much happier being in unity, one unity in my body, having unity in my body. The mind is matching the physical body now. So it's a matter of your partner wanting you to be whole. And if they have that understanding, then they knew what they were getting into from the very beginning. If Tony knew who I was as a person, she fell in love with me as a person, she also knew I wasn't a typical female. Now here's what I'm trying to say. Let's say this was opposite. Tony told me she wanted to transition as a guy. I've never seen a guy in Tony. I wasn't drawn to Tony for any of her masculine strength or her ways. It would really throw me off. Not because I don't love her, but because we wouldn't have lasted 15 years, because I wouldn't have been attracted to that kind of person. And so there's the difference. I honestly believe that we as individuals, no matter the adversities in our lives, no matter the circumstances that other people bring into our lives, what goes on inside will never change. Our personalities don't change. What I'm bringing to the table here in these topics is trying to teach or socialize all of us to men, because we're not taught. There are things that are not talked about. Relationships, if you worry about your relationship, you've got to be an open mind. I know another buddy that talked about this on It's a Man's World, and his partner said, I've never seen you as a female. So there's the difference between a trans guy and actually a butch lesbian. Trans men have mannerisms, they have reactions, they carry themselves a little bit different. It's a natural thing. I never tried to be male. I was just me. And the responses I got from other people in my life through the years was, you're so much like a man. And my response inside was, I am a man. So, sorry, it went off on me. So if you are in a new relationship and you're transitioning, you really have to have that communication. Transitioning is a selfish time. But it's not a selfish time where you put someone on the outside. You have to bring them in with you and keep them by your side. But it's a selfish time as far as looking in the mirror, seeing the person, you becoming the person that you know on the inside. It's a selfish time exploring your body because changes are happening. It's a selfish time because sometimes when you go out there in the real world, they don't always treat you good. And you feel defeated, or you feel depressed. And you get to have that moment. But always stay open and communicate with your partner. Like Tony and I talked to her about the lobby. I said, you know, I want to bring something to your attention. I showed her what she did and what I thought she should do in the future. Tony doesn't think like a typical woman either. She's not, you know, she's a lesbian and she's just not thought about those things. But now she's kind of red flagging herself on certain things. And so communication is the biggest thing in any relationship. But don't hoard your selfishness. And what I mean by that is don't run your depression, or if you feel defeated, or the negative environment out there. Don't let it run your life. Because what good are you doing yourself if you're letting others run your life? Feel it for the moment, process it, and then let it go. And go forward. Because your transition is an opportunity in life that not many people get, for you to be one whole being. And so I say, always keep a good communication with your partner. Let them know how you're feeling and why. And even though they won't understand it, just say, just give me a little while and I'll get over this. You know, but that's what I say. A good relationship is a relationship that can talk, that can be open and discuss things, and not think that one person's opinion is better than the other. Tony and I have suggestions, we have ideas, and we bring them together and we make one suggestion and one idea out of it, using both sides to make one. And that's what we've learned through our relationship. My transition, the times where I get depressed is someone calls me ma'am. Sometimes I feel a little bottom dysphoric when I, you know, there's just things sometimes you just kind of feel. And Tony understands. She doesn't understand how I feel, but she understands what I'm feeling. So be open, stay true, be yourself. Because in the first place, if you've always been yourself, they're going to know who you are. So that's this week on relationships. Hope you guys got some comments out there. Help some other guys out there. I'm sorry I can't talk to you if you're dating. I've never dated as a trans guy. That will have to come to the table by someone else to give you good information. But you guys take it one day at a time and make your journey as simple as possible. We'll see you next Tuesday, guys.